Hi, everyone. It's Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks and Lucy. Today, I'm really happy to speak with MaryAnn Pfeifer. She's written a book, she's got an agency, she's been in the business for quite a while. And I'd like to introduce everybody to MaryAnn Pfeifer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, MaryAnn.
Hi, Joy. So, Marian Pfeifer, my company is 108 Degrees Digital Marketing. We've been around for over 20 years now, if you sort of count the original days of the agency being me. It's been about 20 years. Right now, I have a team of about 8 people, all women. We are a women-owned, women-led organization. All the women who work for me are entrepreneurs unto themselves. And we work with small to mid-sized businesses in all areas of digital marketing. So from websites to email, content development, social media, search advertising, branding, sort of the whole kit and caboodle. So majority of our clients, or the concentration of our clients, we work with sort of national and regional brands. We don't tend to work with like your coffee shop down the street, unless your coffee shop down the street is like a pretty significant coffee shop down the street. And we do everything from sort of just general consulting to sort of get them set up so they can run it themselves with their marketing department. But there are also organizations where we run most of the tactical for them. So it just depends on their needs. Sometimes we're just filling in the places where they lack the talent or the manpower or woman power to get it done.
Interesting. So I know that you've written a book,
Mm-hmm.
and that book is available on Amazon, but
Mm-hmm.
with the title Precision Email 7 Lessons in Engagement Strategy. Let's talk a little bit about the book to start off with. So, how did that come about? Where was the food for the book?
So I've been in digital marketing since the 90s. Prior to having an agency, back when people didn't really know what digital was. I always tell the story that, like, if you're old enough to remember hearing, "You've got mail," I was probably the one sending it. So I've been doing email that long. So for me, because I've had so many years of experience in email and having my own agency. I work with, organizations of a variety of different sizes. As an independent consultant, I've worked with organizations like Boston University, right, which are really big. But then I also worked with really small organizations, up and coming startups. So I've seen a lot, so I know a lot, and I get asked a lot of questions. And I thought, well, maybe it's time to take some of it from here and put it where other people can find it.
Yeah. Sometimes, you find yourself like a little recording, and then you have the same conversations. Images are 60/40. Think about your friendly firm address.
Mm.
You have the same
Yeah,
conversations with the same
over and over. Yeah,
over and over. So putting it in a book and saying, "Here's my book,"
yeah,
and it's a quick read. I
yeah.
literally read it in an evening.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, that was the idea. The idea was that, there's a lot of, this is 20 years of strategy, and I try to, in the book, sort of focus on the things that you don't see, like the tips, like what size should my images be? Like, you can Google that and get an answer. It is really hard to Google an answer about, like, well, what do I do if my list looks like this? Or what happens when I get an omnivore or a warning from my provider that my list doesn't seem to be clean? Like, what do I do about that? How do I handle that? So those are like strategic problems, and that's what we solve a lot of, right? Because the stuff that you can just Google a quick answer to, people will Google a quick answer to. So this was designed to be like, here's strategy and the things you have to think of behind your campaigns. But also for me, it was really important that it be a quick read, because I know I have stacks of these. Don't get me wrong, I love the big, thick marketing books when I have time to read them. I have one that I bought before the pandemic that I have managed to read 3 pages of. It is signed by the author. I stood in line to have him sign it. He was big name author. I don't even have time, and it's got a lot of pictures, so I really have no excuse. It's got a lot of pictures, but there is something about the fact when you have like a big, thick book, you're like, I got to set aside time for that. And in the last 2 years, none of us have had time, because we've been inundated with all the changes in the industry. So I purposely was like, I want something that when people can get on a plane again, that they could take it to the airport. By the time they get off the plane, they've read it, and they can have like 5 or 6 ideas of things they have to do to implement better email marketing today.
Actionable. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get the book published? I mean, I'm just curious. A lot of people have great ideas for short books. or medium-sized books, how-to books. How
Mm-hmm.
did you go about getting it published?
So we actually provide this service for some of our clients in our content generation programs. So, clients will come to us and be like, I need some credibility, or I'm going to do a speaking gig, and I need something to hand people, and people don't want a paper, right? But people love a book. So we do this a lot with clients where we will sit down, we'll actually interview them, we'll outline the book, we'll do some pre-writing for them, we'll have them kind of fill in blanks, and we kind of work cooperatively with them. So I sort of took that process and kind of imposed it on myself. I actually, my lead writer, who we've been friends, we've known each other over 20 years, she actually was not involved in the book. She's purposely stepped aside for the writing part of the book. She came in to help me with like my bio and some of the other cleanup later, but she stepped aside. So this is my book. But I drafted everything I wanted to say. I sort of went through, these are the lessons that I have. And then I actually asked some of my email peers to help peer review it and give me feedback on it, which was great.
Yeah, it was a good book.
I'm glad you liked it. Thank you.
Again, I'm reading fictional books on the side, and I thought to myself, let's see if I can get through it, because my mentality for reading is entertainment, and sometimes I'll begin a book in the industry, and just like you, you get through pages and you're like, this is homework, I can't do this.
This is homework.
Yeah, I read right through it, and I was like,
cool.
This is so, 5 stars. I recommend it.
Thank you so much.
The email marketing people, in the industry trying to start up their email marketing, people who have lots of ideas but don't necessarily know how to organize themselves, and you have a lot of real life scenarios that you resolve. So
yeah, and these are all real client stories. Our tactic is always, we're storytellers. Like that's what we do for our clients. And so for me, whenever I have a speaking gig or something like that, I try to focus on storytelling, because I think as humans, we like stories. We learn from stories. It's why so many kids like history class, right? Because they go in, I was a political science major in college, right? Like, why did I like that stuff? Because it's a story. I mean, it's a real story, and there's lessons to be learned from it, but we learn better through storytelling. And so I did anonymize all of this so that no clients could identify themselves. Some of these stories are very old, so these clients are not working with us anymore anyway. But I wanted to make sure that people could relate to it, because the problems that we solved for these particular cases are problems that we hit quite regularly with different size organizations, from both nonprofits to small businesses. So the idea was to make it relatable. And even if the whole story doesn't appeal to you, that maybe, there's an element of that where you go, well, I don't have any of these things because I'm not a nonprofit, but I do have these problems, and I can relate to that issue and how to resolve it, and hopefully find solutions. So that was the goal.
Yeah, you did well.
Thank you.
So you've got a poli-sci degree, and you ended up in marketing, which sounds a heck of a lot like where I came from. How did you end up in marketing?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, first of all, not to date myself, but when I was in college, there was no internet marketing, okay? There was barely an internet. The internet was me sitting on this side of the table and you sitting on that side of the table, and a VAX computer emailing back and forth to each other. That was email back when I was in college. So now you know how old I am. So I sort of stumbled across it. I went poli-sci. I was poli-sci in international affairs, actually. I was going to be a lawyer. And then I took my first pre-law class, and I went, oh yeah, no, that's not me. And the funny story I tell, and I can say this out loud now because my kids now know the story because they're old enough. I flunked computer science the first time I took it. I flunked it, and to be fair, I flunked it because my teacher was terrible. He was awful. I think he's probably still tenured there. But he was terrible. And so I had several friends who were engineering majors, and they also had to take an introductory level computer science class, but ours was like the 101 class or 401 class, and theirs was the 403 class, so it was higher level. So they tutored me through all of the different things that we were doing. And so when I went to take my final, I used the code that they taught me, which was not something my professor had taught. And he basically said, there's no way you could have known this. You must have had somebody else take the test for you. And he flunked me. And I had to appeal that to the dean. and they had to talk to my friends, and they were like, no, like we literally taught her this. And they were guys, so it's not like they could have sat in on the tests for me. I had long bushy hair. Like there's no way somebody would have mistaken me for them. I did end up retaking the course and doing just fine. But the irony is that, like, had that worked out, like, had I actually taken that class and gotten the grade I should have gotten, I probably would have spun off and gone into coding, because that was really where my interest was. And when I graduated, I had to, like, float around for a while and figure it out. And then I somehow landed into a job in marketing. And from there, it just kind of evolved. Like, I've always had a tech bias. That was my computer in high school. Again, dating myself. But yeah, I've always been surrounded by tech. I'm always really comfortable in tech. So when it came possible to merge my interest in marketing with my interest in tech, that's where I went into digital marketing. So
I was a problem solver. I've always been a problem solver. I actually create problems in my life to solve. So, and I like logical, control situations. So HTML was so satisfying to me when I found it, because it was this very logical, do this, and it always will work.
Yeah.
Unless you're an Outlook. But
that's an anomaly.
Yeah. So when I found email marketing, that's how I found it. And it just, it stuck. It really, it resonated beyond resonated. It hollered in my ears.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also, I think, a satisfaction to email marketing, because unlike the other aspects of digital, I don't want to say you're never done, but like your website's never done, your social media is never done. It's done in the moment. But when that email sends, it's done. And you have a feeling, and then you get to watch the results come in. And that is like so cool, because like the data geek side of us gets to come out, because we can go and look and be like, oh, look at this. Oh, they're clicking here. I never would have thought that they'd click to that. And then you can do it again and improve upon it based on what you've learned. But you do get a feeling of checking off that box, which is so satisfying, which in a lot of marketing is like, you just don't get to do that.
Exactly. It is exactly that. It's funny that you should say that, because that's exactly how I present myself. Where I started out doing websites, and it was like, oh, let's try it a different color. Oh, let's put this image in there. Oh, let's do this. Oh, let's start all over again. What?
The never-ending design cycle.
Oh my gosh, it's never going to get done. I'm never going to get paid. I'm never going to be satisfied. And it's okay if that's, if that's what you want to do. And if you can actually create some sort of a payment schedule where you can get paid for it. But otherwise, it really becomes a nightmare where you're, on the verge of losing a client, because they possibly are never going to get satisfied.
So true.
And you're never going to be able to deliver on the services or contract you initially, proposed. So I immediately got out of doing websites, and I got a little scared. And at the same time, somebody said something to me about email marketing. I was like, what's that? And, I said, you mean it's not just creating a template and sending it out of Outlook? No. You can actually code stuff. I can. And, I started playing around with it. And,
oh, God, remember the days of 80% open rates? Remember those days? Those days were great.
And the thing is, it was I came out of publishing. So email marketing is like a magazine where, you never heard of a Cosmos saying, oh, you know what, the May issue is not coming out because we just couldn't decide on a cover.
Right. Yeah, I came from publishing too. That was actually one of the earlier jobs in marketing in my career. I was in like marketing and promotions and working with advertisers and things like that. And actually my very first foray into digital marketing, we had I worked for Computer Graphics World magazine. I was, in the advertising, marketing department. And we had a website, and this is in the 90s, right? So this is like, that was a big deal, having like a website where you could sell ads. And they hadn't hired an ad sales rep yet. And they're like, listen, can you cover this in case anybody actually wants to buy an ad? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, who's going to want to buy an ad on a website, right? Right? Get a call from Lucas Arts, like George Lucas, like the gaming company. for Luke, and they're like, yeah, we'd like to buy an ad. I was like,
Wow.
damn, this is a thing.
Yeah, I was working for a magazine, and we were talking about the web, and the lead programmer said to me, "Oh, this web thing, it's a fad. It's not going anywhere." I'm like, I beg to differ. I don't know where it's going, but I'm telling you, it's not going away. Oh,
Right.
It's going to fizzle out. I don't know where they are now, but that was I was doing a magazine, and the magazine was based on database marketing, which I mean, it's what it turned the internet. It's what literally email marketing became. It's database marketing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the magazine was based on surveys, and it was very technical. And
everything was back then. I mean, everything was code and technical. Like there was nothing user friendly. There was no UX designer behind things.
No.
No. There were no CMSs. There were no ESPs. Like everything was like, you got to code it to get there.
Yeah, I had a C prompt with a flashing, a blinking light.
Blinking.
Something in there. Otherwise, you got nothing back. And you had to know what you were doing.
Okay, now you're dating yourself. So.
Well, I could say that when I went to school, there was no computer science. It was strictly engineering. And I remember my dad saying to me, well, I went to school, I was going to become an archaeologist. And my dad was saying, why are you doing that? You're never going to be able to get a job. And I said, yeah, I am. And I came out of school, and I did get a job. And I also got dysentery. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be traveling like this, it may be exciting and glorifying and satisfying and all these things. But if I'm going to get sick every single time, this could pose a problem.
Yeah.
So I came back from my first dig, and I thought to myself, maybe I'll get a job in the city. And that's what I told you. You should have got a better degree, like computer science. And I was like, Dad, I'm not an engineer. And I turned out I'm an engineer. So what can I tell you? So when way back when I was rediscovering my talents, and I was getting laid off from marketing left and right, because marketing in the 80s, marketing companies were being eaten up one at a time. So the big company ate up the little company, and the two companies had a marketing department, and one marketing department went bye-bye, and the other marketing department took over. And that happened to me too many times. And I thought to myself at some point, this is not going to happen again, because I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to take control. I'm not going to get laid off ever again. So I began.
That is courageous and scary.
It's going to be. So I decided that I would take a little bit more control of my life. And I came up with an agency concept. But that agency concept for me never worked. And it didn't work for me because I was, I'm of a coder mentality, which means I'm somewhat siloed and I'm somewhat control oriented. And my personality never worked into the agency, but yours did. So I want to talk about that transition, what happened to you when you said to yourself, you know what, I'm a woman. I want to work with women, talented women, ambitious women. I'm going to do my own thing. How did
Yeah, so it was not planned at all. So like many of us, I was the accidental entrepreneur, right? So I was working in tech. So I had gone from publishing into tech. So I was working in like that sort of .com world of the early century. And I was 6 months pregnant at a company that seemed very secure, until the CFO, I think it was, embezzled a whole bunch of money and went off to the Cayman Islands. And they had to have a whole bunch of layoffs. And typically, I was in the .com world. Layoffs happened all the time. I was never, ever the one laid off. I was the one that they had a team of 5. The 4 other people were gone. They're like, here, MaryAnn, you have to do all their jobs. And I'd be like, okay, at least I still have a job, right? But here's the thing. When you're 6 months pregnant in tech and you get laid off, yeah, nobody hires you. So, so I knew I would be off. I kind of lucked out because I got laid off in the early rounds while they still had severance to give. So unfortunately, some of my colleagues did not end up so well 3 months later. But so I was like, all right, I've got a little cushion. I've got a little while before the baby is born. And even after she was born, I was intending to go back to work, but I knew that I would take a maternity leave of a few months. So I said, all right, let me just start doing some consulting just so I can stay up and do some things, right? So I started just consulting. Had the baby, went to work for, I think it was Boston University, was one of my clients at the time. So I was, in and out of there. I had some small business clients. And so sort of rinse and repeat. I have 3 kids. So, I kept getting pregnant. And so I was not able to get another job in tech. Like it just wasn't working out. In the meantime, I went from this consulting gig to that consulting gig to, and then I had to start bringing on people to help me because I couldn't do all the work myself. So can I code a website? Technically, yes. Do you want me doing the code of your website? Probably not, because I am very slow and my code is full of errors. So I was like, all right, I need to bring on a developer to help me. And then I needed an assistant. And then I needed, a writer. And then, so on and so forth. So I kept sort of like saying, oh, can you come and help me on this project? Can you come and help me on that project? So fast forward about 10 years. What happened is, I'll take my writer that I work with as an example. So she and I had known each other like in the early parts of our career when I was at that publishing company. She was at a different division. And she was kind of in the same boat that I was in. She started to have kids and was kind of unemployable in tech. Because she also worked in tech fields. So, and PR, that was her other background, was in PR. And she was like, you can't work in PR unless you have 60 hours a week to spare because that's the minimum, right? So, so she and I were both of this same mentality, like, well, listen, we're good at what we do, like really good at what we do. The people are willing to hire us for whatever time we have available to them. And we should keep doing this. And along the way, we just started like hiring other people that were like us. We started bringing on board people who were sort of unemployable by the standard employment rules, right? Because they only had 10 or 15 hours a week, or they were really young and didn't have a lot on their resume, or they had, an aging parent they had to care for, or whatever it was, right? Like we were all these sort of like the unemployed, like the misfit toys, right? We were the female misfit toys. We were caregivers, right? And so therefore
talented caregivers.
Talented caregivers.
Talented.
Who are professional and who are really highly skilled at what we do. So today I know what I'm looking for when I'm bringing somebody onto our team, and it sounds funny because like I'm kind of looking for that woman who can't be employed somewhere else because the idea is that like, when now I work full 40 plus hours a week now because this is like my full-time gig, right? But a lot of the women that work for me don't. But they love the work that they do. Like I have one woman who works for me who is highly, highly skilled. She has a background in the pharmaceutical industry. If you can live in the pharmaceutical industry and marketing and survive it, you are made of some tough stuff, right? But due to her circumstances, like she just can't work a 40-hour work week, but she's so good at what she does. I will take whatever time she has. I will let her be the professional she can be. She loves the fact that she can still work at a really high level, for what she's able to do. And so that's kind of the secret sauce for us is that, I look at talent. I look at ability to work as a team. I look at the ability for somebody to do the job to the spec that I need within the deadlines made available. And if they can do that, then we give them a try and we see how it goes. And, for me, that was the fit. And I know that I'm, providing opportunity for other women who are in the same circumstance to sort of flex their professional muscle and yet still be, either a student or a caregiver or a stay-at-home mom or whatever it is they need to be in the rest of their life.
There's I felt that the corporate model, I was not the corporate model. I never was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so difficult for me to shove myself into that I'm this square peg in the round hole syndrome. It was very difficult for me. I tried to be ambitious and I literally tripped and fell all over that. It wasn't me. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was me trying to be me, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
me. And when I discovered that I could manage myself, that I had discipline, that I
Mm-hmm.
had talent, I
Mm-hmm.
just needed to apply myself to a different model,
Mm-hmm.
and that model didn't exist, and I had to
It
create it.
didn't.
It's like, well, what's wrong with you? It's not what's wrong with me, it's what's different about me.
Mm-hmm.
And this 9 to 5 model works. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm saying that it doesn't work for everybody. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth of the matter is, COVID proved that there's a lot. It was something that was happening anyway, but COVID did
Mm-hmm.
so much to business.
Mm-hmm.
It
It's
proved
true.
that you don't need to be in an office. That
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are some people that run off the rails if they're not in an office. If you don't tell
Mm-hmm.
them, and now we're going to be doing this. So get your
Mm-hmm.
pen out. You don't tell them that, they sit there and they're I don't know, sharpening pencils or something. The point is that there are people that have, let's say, they're only able to work at night, but they're
Mm-hmm.
highly talented and
Mm-hmm.
skilled and produce within that time. What do
Mm-hmm.
you care when they're producing? If there's a deadline that everyone knows and they meet the deadline, hello, here's your paycheck, and let's do
Right.
it again. And
Right.
there's so many of this that it's almost like it's not fringe anymore. The fringe is the office.
Right. It's interesting because, when the pandemic started and the lockdowns happened, companies like yours and mine, like, we never missed a beat. We never missed a beat because we could keep doing. And for so many of our clients, that was like a lifeline. That was an oasis because they knew that communications was really vital. Letting clients know that they were open, that the supplies were there, that they were willing to ship, that they are willing to deliver, that they will work with whatever. Like, that was really vital to keeping businesses open. I did have a couple who suffered. They were in New York City, understandably, so they suffered. There's nothing we could do. Like, literally a whole city was, dying in front of us. And so, that was horrible. But for others who were just sort of stuck in that rock and a hard place of like, well, we have product, we have service, we have people, like, we can do some things, but we don't know how. The fact that my team was able to come in and say, okay, communications challenge, what can we do? How do you want to state it? What services can you offer? Let's get this message out. That really did help to keep them going and help to keep them sustained, during the toughest part of the lockdown. And I know that my colleagues, my peers who were like us, who were virtual, who, have virtual teams, like, their clients were the same. So there is something to be said, for the fact that we have that flexibility. It doesn't come without challenge, right? I mean,
right.
I've been doing this 20 years. I have had a lot of really bad fits, like people that hire, they're just like, no, not a good fit. Nice, super nice. But that discipline you talked about, that ability to get up and be at your desk at a certain time and meet a deadline and not have to worry about somebody peeking over your shoulder. Like, not everybody has that.
Right.
And you need the people that do. The people that do don't need any other monitoring and do better. Like, I looked at it like in the days when I was in an office, how many days did I have the doors closed to my office door? Because I had to focus, right? And so there's a reason why I was closing a door. There's a reason why I didn't work well in a cubicle, because the type of work I do, like you, it requires concentration. And that was in a day before there were noise canceling headphones. So, so to like, if you have that kind of job, sometimes you're better at home.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, you don't need that interruption or stimulus. Is it done? Is it done?
Yeah.
I forget. I'm not sitting here waiting for somebody to tell me, is it done? I'm working on it.
Right, exactly.
I'm not stuck up. And the reason I don't want to go to lunch with everyone else is because if I do take a lunch and if I want to read a book for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's because I need that time to diffuse. I don't need that time to sit, in a group of people and talk about someone else. It's only going to make that, for me, that much worse.
So you're also an introvert like me. I didn't know that I was, Joy. I really, because like I'm in marketing and I do public speaking and all this stuff. I never thought that I was, but I figured it out because during the pandemic, of all the people in my house, I was the last one who reached the point of being like, yeah, I guess I should see other people again.
I still haven't reached that point. everybody was saying, oh, those Zoom meetings, those Zoom conferences, those Zoom calls, I
Yeah.
can't take them. I'm like, oh, you kidding me? I love them. It's the only way I talk to people.
Well, I will say I do like the occasional I like the Zooms because they're very efficient, and especially for stuff like this, because we'd be possible for the two of us to get together. But I went to a speaking event a couple weeks ago, and it was actually really nice to sort of be outside and see real people and have a conversation. Masks, okay, fine, whatever. But like it was actually nice to see people in some kind of social setting where there's not a whole lot of pressure. But I agree with you. The let's gossip about somebody at lunch. I never needed that either.
I can't do that. I just can't.
Yeah,
It's not that I don't gossip. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, when I'm at work and I'm stressed out, the last thing I need is to sit in a group and start gossiping about other people. That doesn't relax me. I don't know. Oddly enough, it just doesn't make anything better,
Yeah.
So, I as soon as I left the office and I started working from home, I literally said, wow, am I some sort of an odd creature that actually can manage this? Because this is so comfortable to me. I never want to go back. I've literally had conversations with prospects. Oh, well, we're hoping that you can come into the office three out of 5 days of the week. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want this job. It's not for me. And I say, do you realize that while I'm on the road driving to your office and getting there, and now all perturbed because I almost had 5 accidents, I could literally have done 5 things because I'm up at 6 a.m. and at my desk at 7. But now you're telling me to get into a car.
You know how you deter that? You know how you deter that, right?
How?
You charge them double.
Yeah.
And you charge them double and a half for travel, right? And you say, fine, I'll be in the office. My rate is double when I'm in the office. This is my standard rate. My office rate is double, and you have to pay for travel time, and I charge time and a half for travel time. So they're paying double plus half for your travel. And I will tell you, you tell that to a prospect, and suddenly they find your office hours and you working from home much more appealing.
Or they say that's not a problem, and now you're stuck driving. But in any case,
but you're getting paid for it, so it's okay.
The best thing is that as a consultant or as a freelancer, I've learned that not only can they fire me, but I can fire them. So I can work on something, work on it, get it done, and then say at the very end, this has been lovely. I enjoyed working with you, but I'm not a good fit. So, this will be the last time we'll be doing something together. And you don't feel so bad. It's like, wow, I have a little bit of control over my options. Life is not like, you don't have full control over your life. That's the truth. But if you can at least have a little bit of control so that you're not always the one getting fired. Right. That you're doing some amount of it yourself, you'll find that, I don't know, it unleashes something inside of you where you're just able to, you're able to build the decision muscles that you're otherwise forced to just say, yes, okay, sure, okay, yeah, oh, you're right, type of a thing where, you know what, maybe I'll learn how to push back a little bit or be able to say something I've learned over time. How to say no when you're saying yes. In other words, client says, I need you to do this, and there's no way you can do this. It's just wrong. But instead of saying no, you say yes, and let's discuss that. And as essentially, you're solving the problem. You're saying yes, you're solving the problem. They never heard the word no, and now it's done. And it's
well, I mean, at a certain point, right, clients are coming to you for your expertise, right?
Right.
And I know that you said a lot of your listeners are sort of like newer in starting their businesses. And I think the hardest part is when you're early on in your program, in your agency or in your business, you don't necessarily have the confidence that you have 10 years in or even 5 years in. But if people are hiring you for your expertise, then they should trust your judgment, and you shouldn't be afraid to provide your judgment in a positive reinforcement way. I always will tell my clients, let's talk, like you said, let's talk that out. Let's see what that looks like in practice and see if you think it's going to get you the results. And as we talk it through, because you and I can sometimes see things we're like, yeah, that's never going to work because 20 years, right? Like we know it's not going to work. We've seen it, but
done that doesn't work.
Been there, done. Yeah. So but they have to get there themselves, and that's part of my job, is to the journey to help them understand like what's really going to work for you. Every business is different. Every organization is different. Every list is different. Right. And you have to customize what you're doing for their particular situation. And even if you can see the road 5 miles ahead, sometimes you have to clear the path for them to see it. But if they're hiring you because of your expertise and because of your judgment, they will listen to that. And if you don't have the confidence in your knowledge that you are able to provide that insight to them, that you're just going to say yes, yes, yes to keep the gig, then you shouldn't be doing it. And that's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard lesson to learn because it means sometimes you're going to have to walk away from a prospect or walk away from business that seems very lucrative. But you need to do what you feel confident in. You need to do something that's going to give your client the best results, because if you don't, it's going to come back on you later that in ways that can really hurt the growth of your business.
I've had situations where I work with a prospect, I work through the proposal, I think it's great. Immediately within the first week of working with them, I realize, oh, this person has an ego the size of the state of Texas. I don't know why it exists before. This is never going to work. Not gonna work. Because whatever they said yes to while we were talking, now they're telling me no now. So whatever license they gave me, they revoked within the first moment of paying me. And that happens. It happens.
It does.
It's best that you learn that. Once you learn it once, twice, 3 times, you'll learn to smell it as it's coming. Yeah. So you'll know, oh, you know what, this is that type of person. And it may be very lucrative, there may be money, there may be exposure, there may be a challenge. The challenge, it's just too much heavy lifting. And,
you have to know when it's a good fit. Like sometimes it's a good fit for you. It also has to be a good fit for them. I do a lot of work with my clients where we just sort of take on like a first project. That project could be an audit. That project could be like just a small, like let's fix up your MailChimp account. Like let's just clean it all up and get it set up for you professionally. We'll work together for like a couple weeks. You'll get to see how we are. We'll get to see how you are. And let's make sure that we like each other. Because a lot of my clients, because I've been doing this a long time, so I have clients that have been with me 6, 7, 8 years. Like, I have some that they do a lot of their own marketing, but when something big happens, they come to me because they're like, we need your help with this because this is just bigger than us. I'm like, great, sure, happy to do that, happy to work with you. I can't have that kind of relationship with somebody that doesn't respect my knowledge, that doesn't understand sort of our methodologies and doesn't agree with them. Somebody who I don't agree with their methodologies and how they run their business. So you have to find that synergy to find the right clients that are a good fit for you. And, like circling back to the book, like this is a way for me to go, hey, like this is how I think. Do you subscribe to this? Does this feel right to you? And sometimes that's the purpose. And I would tell, your listeners who may not be like, oh, I don't have a whole book to write. You don't have to write a whole book. You can write a white paper. You can write, and if you can't write it, hire somebody who can write, right? And you talk to them and talk them through and help them outline it. Get what is your philosophy of what you do and how you think about it into something that someone can read before they talk to you. Because that sort of dispels a lot of the questions about like, well, I don't know if they know what they're doing, because the fact is, Joy, like with what you do a lot of coding. Most of the people that hire you, they're not looking at your code. They're not taking it and uploading it into a code checker to see if it's right.
Idea what I do.
They don't know what you do, right? They just need to know that you're good, but they need to know that they can work with you. So your client isn't always going to understand what you do. They just know that they need it. And sometimes they don't even know that they need it. Like I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, I need help on our website. And I'll look at them and go, you do, but we can't start there. Like, we need to start with your email and your social and your brand and your logo, because they don't know what they need. They just know the website is not getting the leads it's supposed to get. They don't understand that the website is sort of the last step in the process from somebody that saw them in all these other places, right? And and it's my job to help them get there and understand that, which I can't take them down that path if they don't subscribe to my philosophies and my way of thinking about marketing. So
yeah, those are the conversations that I do have with customers, because while I do the development,
mm-hmm.
It is the whole philosophy towards
Yeah.
development. So it's the concept of the responsive design. It's also the concept of the white space, the concept
Mm-hmm.
of the call to action. I mean, all of these things need to come into play. We're
Yeah.
not talking about print magazine, so please, I'm sure your designer is lovely, but I need to make sure that you have a designer that can do email, because it's
Right.
different than print.
Yes.
It's
And
different.
accessibility. I mean, accessibility alone, that's like a whole topic that so many companies ignore. And I just was doing a talk a couple weeks ago, and I was like, 8% of your audience is probably red, green, colorblind. 8%. You will sit there and have me optimize this email for the AOL browser or whatever, right? Which is like 4 people in your audience.
Right.
But you won't pay attention to red, green, color blindness, which is the most common form of color blindness. Like, no, like, we got to address this stuff. And that's your job and my job to educate them to. And they're not going to listen if they don't respect that we're coming from a place of knowledge and experience and understanding of what their needs are beyond what they can see.
We talk about a population that suffers from attention deficit disorder, right? So everybody's got issues with attention. But in the meantime, let's prepare this email that's got images and disclaimers and 5 paragraphs, and don't forget to put it in a newsletter, and let's put in a menu bar, and how about this, and
and 5 megabyte GIFs. I've got to have that 5 megabyte GIF in there.
Oh yeah, animation and my puppy and okay, can we, like, that's about 5 emails. Let's figure out what we're doing one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were talking. We quickly talked about firing people, but how is it that you find people? You've got an agency. I'm sure you've got a salesperson, but maybe you're the one who's looking for the next prospect. Even if you're small, if you're big, finding prospects and doing business with people is always some sort of, I don't want to call it a pain point. Obviously, it's how you make your money. So, you can't live without it. So how does your agency find prospective clients to work with?
Sure. Well, I am the salesperson. That's all me. That's my job, because my job is strategy. So I don't want to sell to somebody who I can't understand their business and strategize what we can do to help them get to their goals. So I run strategy and sales. That's my job. We're small, so we're boutique. We don't take a ton of clients at once. We're, probably maximum 25 at any given time. Like, that's really pushing it for us. So we're small and boutique. We are probably 90% referral based and have been for at least 10, 15 years. Like, I don't do a lot of advertising. I know, but it's because we're boutique and we're small and we can only handle so much. I am a MailChimp Pro partner, and I do get a good number of inquiries from MailChimp, but I have been with MailChimp I was an expert whenever they launched that directory 5 or 6 years ago. So like, I've been, yeah. So I've had that, and I do take those leads that come in, but we are predominantly referral based. Some of it's longevity. I've been doing this a long time. But some of it is just that, because I can only take a handful of clients at a time, I have to be very careful about who I select. So, so I do put word of mouth out there. I feel like it's really important to talk about what you do, and not in that like spammy way of like, hi, my name's MaryAnn, I do digital marketing. Like, ugh, who wants that, right? But I know a lot of people. I would you like to get our emails? Oh, here's information. My email signature. I always use my work email for everything, which has my email signature, which has all my company information. So I will get leads sometimes from people who are like, oh, your email was forwarded to me from my friend who knew I needed somebody in marketing. Right? So I try to take all of those steps to encourage referrals as much as possible. If I do get a cold lead, it's usually coming from MailChimp. So it's kind of qualified because they're a MailChimp user, so they know what we do, and they're coming from a system that I know that we use. If somebody's coming to me from Active Campaign, well, it depends on what you're doing with it. We use Active Campaign, but not as much as we use MailChimp. So I have to be more selective with those when they come in. Yeah, it's really for us. It's all about the referrals. I don't want to be fielding a dozen leads a day. It's a waste of my time because my job is to work for the clients I have first, and then fill the gap with the other time with finding the new fits that are right for us. So,
I think with a small, I don't want to say small. Let's call it small and medium size.
Mm-hmm.
Boutique agencies. And there's so many of them these days. I think that's the way to go, that you do the job. You really concentrate on your customers. You do the right job, and that's going to get you to the next line of business. First, they're going to come back. Second, they're going to talk to other people they do business with, and you're going to get referrals. So it's not as odd as it sounds. The problem, obviously, is to get those first few customers. But that's business, period. You know, if you've got a mission, and if you've got a product or a service, you've got a mission, the first part of your business is getting those first customers.
Right.
And
right.
That you've got your 6 month, your year, your 5 year, all these business plans in your head. And at some point in time, you're pivoting a little bit as you're growing the business. And at some point you make it.
Right.
Make it. And it does change. For me, as I said, I tried in the beginning. I thought, I had purchased Flying Dragon, and I was going to have an agency, Flying Dragon, and I worked it, and I was not able to do sales and billing and the work. And at that time, it was 2006, I couldn't find anybody.
It's so hard. Yeah.
That could work with me. I found programmers, but they didn't do email. And I found salespeople that did marketing, but they did no email. And I was just stumbling, and I thought at some point, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to have to give up the ghost and determine what it is that I do. So what I did was, guess what? Instead of me making an agency, I'll join up with a small boutique agency.
Right.
That's what I did. And honestly, it worked for me. I worked remote. They were all remote agencies. So I had a few, I called them house accounts. And I thought, wow, within 6 months, I was doing what I wanted to do. It just worked. So we're not all going to be entrepreneurs at the same level. You might want to own your business. You might want to own your talent or your skills. You might want to, I'd say that I don't want to call it the age of the entrepreneur, because I think that that's already over with. I think the entrepreneur is really the mindset. I really do. I really do think it is the mindset. And
I have one friend who she just moves from business to business. She's doing one thing this year, and 5 years from now she'll be doing something different, because she just has an entrepreneurial spirit, and it's what is capturing her attention for this moment. Right. But I will say that I think the most important thing, the one piece of advice I have always lived with, is you have to get up every day and love what you do. Now, there are certain days where I'm like, oh crap, I've got to work on the taxes. Okay, I don't love that part of it. But generally, I do really love what I do. I love working with small businesses and nonprofits. I love helping them reach their goals. I love creatively telling stories for them. I love experimenting with new types of technology. So I know that every day I can get up and be at my computer at 8 o'clock. You can get up at 7 and be at your desk by 7, because you love what you do. And if you're a new business owner starting out, there's going to be parts of the job you don't like, but you have to get to the point where you get up every day and do the thing you love to do, and hire out for all the things that you don't, like me hiring coders and you go into an agency so you don't have to sell.
Exactly, exactly. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a lot of skills, and some of those skills are transferable, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a bit of time to understand how they transfer. So I came out of school and I wanted to be an archaeologist and needed it was attention to detail and research and
Mm-hmm.
figuring
Mm-hmm.
stuff out and following breadcrumbs and coming to solutions. And I was like, how what and then I found that those skills weren't transferable. It went into
Mm-hmm.
magazine publishing, and then it
Mm-hmm.
went from magazine publishing into email, and here I
Mm-hmm.
am today. So
Mm-hmm.
while I was once had an interview with somebody, and it was in magazine publishing, and I was looking to change from one job to another, and the woman said to me, I don't understand, you've been doing proofreading. How do you end up wanting to be in IT? And I was like, transferable skills. And she said, well, what skills are transferable? I said, attention to details. Like she wasn't getting it. Like she didn't see the fact
Yeah.
that I could look at a 4-color
Mm-hmm.
print ad
Mm-hmm.
and find the mistakes in the placement of the film, in the
Yeah.
words, and all of these things. She
Yeah.
didn't see that transferred into working in IT.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't see that. And now, obviously, tech is one thing, but we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about in an age where not everybody came from tech. So you're going to be
Yeah.
segueing into different,
Right. Right.
types of jobs.
Yeah, I feel like we came into an era, coming like into that internet era. There's not like today, there's no way that you coming out with an archaeology degree would be hired for an IT job. Like there's just no way.
Right.
Because that is one of the joys of sort of that period that we came out of for all of the unemployment and layoffs and recessions we had to deal with. We really could sort of discover our own way and make our own path. Like I always tell my kids, my job description did not exist when I came out of college. It didn't even exist for several years after I came out of college. So we had this great opportunity in that time to go off in a direction that wasn't possible because no one knew how to do this. No one knew how to code an email. We had to figure it out. So I do think those opportunities still exist today, but it is a little more regimented. Like you're not going to go into internet marketing today if you don't have at least a little bit of background in at least basic marketing or psychology or something like that. So
Yeah. It's those things are closed off, but PR obviously has changed so much because now it's influencer marketing. But a lot of the flavors, they begin to, let's not call them flavors. The colors begin to blend. So
yeah.
Where PR was once, getting up in front of an audience and having to speak to a group of people and answer questions, it's now, can I talk socially? And when people come back, I can answer them and I can have a discussion on the internet. Oh, really? You could do that? Yeah, you could do that. And, it's called social media. So, things continue to change. Sometimes, sometimes there are people that don't have vision, unfortunately, and they shouldn't be where they are. But you'll find that in life, period. People are where they shouldn't be. You wonder how they got there. But it's an interesting world where you can take yourself on the road and produce and reproduce and grow continuously, so that the entrepreneur spirit, that spirit that has you, selling one thing and then, I don't know, doing complete, a chef at the end, and it's the same journey. It's quite an interesting life. I think that we are changing the way we think about jobs, so that we went to college. We thought we were going to come out with a job that we would be able to monetize, and we would stay in that job until we retired. That doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work. That doesn't work.
No. But I love the opportunity that exists and the fact that we can think outside of the box of that 9 to 5 and make what we want to make out of
Make
it.
what we want, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm an accountant and I'll end up a chef. Okay, guess what? Along the line, here's my journey. And now I could share that journey with other people and express it to other people so that somebody can go in and come out with a degree in mathematics and ends up, a design, a clothing design.
Hey, I have a friend who was an engineer and then decided to become a chef, and today she's an attorney. She's had an amazing journey, and I'm not sure how she managed to connect all those dots, but they do all connect, and she's really thrilled with her job, and as she has enjoyed every one of those careers. And she is a young woman who has plenty of career left in her. So
There you go.
She might be 3 more things by the time she retires. Who knows?
Like, go girl.
Yeah, right.
Wind her up and she just doesn't stop. It's the ever ready bunny. Well, I've really enjoyed this hour and talking with you, and I'd love to have coffee with you someday, but unfortunately this moment has to pass and to another. I'd like to be able to share connections with you and to our audience in case they want to connect with you. So how do people contact you? Where are you on the web? And I'll post these things afterwards, but for our listeners at this point in time, give us an idea of where you're at.
Sure. So my company website is 108 degrees, the number 1, the number 0, the number 8 degrees, degrees.com. You can find our social media connections there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I also have a LinkedIn bio as well under linkedin.com/in/MaryAnn Pffeifer. Good luck spelling that. You're probably better off just going to our website and linking to me from there. There's a bunch of F's in there. It's traditional German spelling. I married into the name, so I don't know the history there, but
Well, thanks so much. Any last words to our audience?
Yes, if you send email, please put your subscribers first. Always think about what is best for them, and you will always have a successful campaign.
I'll drink to that.
All right.
It's only water, but that's okay.
That's okay. It's a little late in the day for the extra caffeine, so.
Thanks so much, MaryAnn.
Thanks, Joy. Take care.
Take care. Happy email marketing, y'all.